Okay, good evening, gentlemen, and our two ladies. Thank you very much for coming. We've got two speakers tonight. Phil Martin, who will come on shortly on the topic of occupational health and safety, and our second speaker, Richard College, on bookkeeping and business management. Could you just turn your phones off, please, if you don't mind, for a start? Just before I introduce Phil, just a few things that you may be aware of. The Office of Fair Trading issued some information last week, one of which was a reference guide to high-fronted gutters and the need to meet with the performance standards of the BCA, changes to the homeowners warranty insurers. As of 1st of April 2009, any builder failing to comply with a monetary order of a court from the CTTT within 28 days will have their licence automatically suspended. It also gives consumers access to a homeowner's warranty when the licence of a contractor they are using is suspended. A couple of other things that is a benefit to builders. There's a pilot scheme from the 1st of March that will allow licensed builders and contractors to access the Fair Trading's free dispute resolution service, previously only available to consumers. So this is the inspectors that often the consumers will call upon if they think there's some defects or incomplete works. As you're aware, they can issue a rectification order, or they can make a report that there's no defect found. As I say, previously only the homeowner could get access to that. Now us builders can, which is good. So if we've got a problem with a client, we can actually call upon them and use them. And just for interest, the DFT stated that there were 6,224 complaints in 2007-2008 financial year, of which 4,500 were resolved, 2,480 by office staff and 2,020 by fair trading inspectors. So there's a good resolution, and what that tells us is that if there is a problem, deal with it very quickly. The longer it's left unresolved, eventually becomes irreparable and costly. So that's some information for you. So look, can I call upon Phil Martin to address us now, please? Please make him welcome. Thank you.
Occupational health and safety, the subject you all love to love. One of the things that's most important that you should clearly understand is about occupational health and safety is the legal framework and how it affects you. The law states very simply, you must ensure the health, safety and welfare of yourself or any other person on your site. So if anyone's injured, if there's an incident, accident, you're kind of automatically guilty. A little bit like some of the Indonesian law. You're guilty until you can prove yourself innocent or what you've done beforehand. The only defence anyone has is that they've got any control over is evidence of prior due diligence. In other words, you've done everything that was reasonable and practicable prior to the event. One of the scariest things about occupational health and safety is we've got an industry, which is the construction industry, which is regularly topping the list of workplace injuries and accidents. You've got to understand that we're knocking over about 55 to 60,000 workers, injuries in the workplace in New South Wales alone every year. Now, you don't need to be a genius to work out that when you take out all the kids and all the old people and all the people who are not working in between and look at the actual workforce, and we're taking out 60,000 of them, there's something wrong. Now, the legal framework works that we've got a national occupational health and safety body, all right, and each state has its own jurisdiction. They look after their own, and that's mostly to do with fining, all right, and how they can prosecute you, and that's the fundamental differences between each individual state, all right, but each state with its own legal framework, all right, does not have to follow the rules of the national body unless they've adopted it into their act or their regulations. So we've got a national body that wants to improve working conditions for people and workers in the construction industry, but are unable to have an influence over the local legislation unless they bring in an act or a regulation. And the regulation is adopted, right, I beg your pardon, a standard is brought in and it's adopted by the local authority. What happened last year in 2005, in fact, it was activated in Victoria last year and pretty well adopted here, was the national standard was brought in for the construction industry. National Standard 1016, 2005. And what it was, it simply made a series of you musts for the construction industry. That's why you're asked now for safe work method statements, all right, safety plans. What it is, it's an advanced version of the old subby pack, of the components which you need to do. Now, you are capable of doing this yourself, all right? You are capable of providing this information yourself if you've got significant time and you can follow the procedures. But the only defense you've got for yourself is evidence of prior due diligence, because the safety management plan which you are providing for principal contractors and for other people protects them, not necessarily yourself. You must look to protect your own business. With so many people getting injured, the way the legal framework works is that should a work cover inspector turn up and decide to prosecute you, you need to understand clearly that it is not like workplace relations law. The company is not necessarily fined, it's the individual. It's the person in control who's prosecuted. So that's you personally. So if you're thinking you're taking your kids to Disneyland or going for a trip around the world, forget it. You will not get a visa to 3/4 of the countries in the world because you've got a personal criminal record. That's not your biggest problem. Workers' compensation, you claim. And workers' compensation, and the rule of thumb is the amount of money that's claimed as a result of an injury in your workplace, all right, all the money, all the medical expenses, the wages, multiply that by 3, and for the 3 subsequent years, that's what your new premium is going to be. So if you've got a guy off and he claims $80,000 a year, look for a $240,000 premium in your workers' compensation next year and for the next 3 years. But that's not your biggest problem. Work cover can come up and they can fine you like they've done on several other sites. There's going to be a big one on the scaffolding crash, $200,000-300,000. That's not your biggest problem. Your biggest problem, if you are convicted of any breach of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, it's virtually a lay down misère, all right, for the civil boys. You know these Geddes guys that advertise on the radio all the time? We've got 16 branches and 22 lawyers, all right? Because you've been already convicted in one jurisdiction, it is extremely difficult to protect yourself in the civil case. And because it's a personal conviction, they come after you personally. And that's where they get your house. And that's where they do it. I've already showed this lady over here, all right, that work cover are fair dinkum. Work cover bankrupt 6 businesses a day in New South Wales, and people don't know about it. There is fair dinkum. You need to take it very, very seriously. But there is a defence. And the only defence you've got any control over is evidence of prior due diligence. And the good thing about it is it's set out for you very succinctly. There is a series of you musts that's stated in the Act and the regulations. You must do this, you must do that. You must induct yourself, you must do this, you must do that. All right? So you need to have your statutory obligations under control. And frankly, I'd be surprised if most of you haven't got a good chunk of those things under control. Now they've brought in the new standard, or new for occupation in the construction industry, all right? And it's just a series of you musts. You must provide a safe work method statement, all right? You must undertake risk management. All the prosecutions that you see are about duty of care. You have failed your duty of care. All right? That's all I say. You see, at the end of the day, I think you all understand, we actually can't comply with the Occupational Health and Safety Act and regulations. We actually can't. because at the end of the day, it comes down to the whim of a judge. All right, and he will just simply ask, could we have done more? Well, we perhaps always do more. But I'm reliably told by senior judges, by work cover seniors, work cover inspectors, that if you've got evidence of prior due diligence, they will not prosecute. Now, I've got 5,500 clients spread throughout Australia and New Zealand and every state, and not one of my clients have ever been prosecuted. Touch wood. It's a boast I'd like to maintain in the future, because we've got systems in place which is very important that you need to understand. If you've got your I's dotted and your T's crossed, all right, you've got a chance. You've got a defence. Because at the end of the day, a work cover inspector, no matter what state he's in, he's effectively a box ticker. All right? He looks at the systems and he says, have you inducted people? Have you provided information, instruction and training? Have you done this, this, this? And he goes down his list and ticks off his boxes. Because don't forget, he has to make sure that the case that goes to court is winning. He doesn't want to lose face. We built the systems in reverse. It's a bottom-driven system. We built it in reverse so that every time he asks a question, we tick a box. And then we've got to take all this legislation away, all right, and we've got to give it to the people who are doing the job. I've been to a company I look after. About 18 months ago I started. I went to this company and I says, why you want me? You know, you're a pretty big outfit. Have you got management programs? Yes, we have. You know, what sort of money have you spent on that? We would have spent between $800,000 and $900,000 on management programs. I said, wow, you know, we've got everything. PowerPoint presentations, we've got rooms full of booklets. I said, well, what's your problem? He said, no one can drive it. It's too hard. All right? So I said, well, he said, what can you do? And I said, I can do this, this, and this. Then I'll throw all your stuff away and change it. I'll invert it. What do you mean by that? I said, it doesn't matter if you have a flash program, all the paper in the world. It doesn't matter if the guy on the ground doesn't buy it and doesn't follow it. If he doesn't do the work safely, in a safe manner, and protect his own health and safety and everyone else around him, all the flash bits of paper and computer programs and certificates are worthless. That company was paying $4.5 million a year in workers' compensation levies. All right? In 18 months, they've had a 34% reduction in lost time injuries. So they're starting to think I'm pretty good. That company's called McCain's. And I look after all of McCain's, Australia and New Zealand. All right? And my specialty is small business. My specialty is one-man bands. My specialty is looking after people who I understand. I am not a corporate silk-tongued beast. All right? I'm a person that was brought up on the farm, lived on a farm, run businesses, built my own sheds, and understand what people go through. Gone broke a couple of times. Understand what it's like to have an awful lot of month left at the end of the money. All right? And understand what it's like to try and dish a bit out. Understand when jobs don't come in. All right? And that's the situation we have to help. We need to make sure that, not through occupational health and safety, that we're looking after the health, safety and welfare, all right, of the individuals, but of the owners of the business. You guys. The stresses that you're going under right now with the work and the recession and clients, all right, fudging you, putting you off, all right, stalling their payments, bits and pieces. You still got to feed mum and the kids. It's about structures, all right? And one of the things that Richard Collins will tell you, more than likely, it's about getting it right. If you don't get the front end right, nothing else matters. You've got to get your occupational health and safety under control with your you musts, all right? Once it's under control, it becomes simple maintenance. And my clients, all right, have 3 documents. 3 documents they use. And they're tick and flick sheets, because most of my guys, I'll tell you, are not rocket scientists. All right? They left school because they were told by the teachers they were dumb and they wouldn't amount to anything. So they went off and got a trade. And they're pretty good at swinging a hammer, or a bit of welding, or electrical work, or whatever. So as a consequence, they grew, and all of a sudden they end up with a bit of a business. And frankly, if it wasn't for the wives and bits and pieces, as I was mentioning before, all right, they would struggle. So with occupational health and safety, we have to demystify it. We have to take it out of the too hard basket, and we've got to do about 95% of it for you. And the rest you must do is just a tick and flick. Okay? So that's the reasons why you need to do it. All right? And it's very simple. You can do it yourself. All right? You can use a consultancy company. You can use me, whatever you like. But it's simply, if you get the front end right, and all you need to do is understand the structure, all right, you've got a chance at making it okay. Now, the questions, I believe some of you may have, I think it's important that you find out what you want. I've told you why you should do this, but there's a big black cloud hanging over our head. We know that about laws, acts, regulations, and bits and pieces. I need to know what your frustrations are. I can't fix your problems or help you with the problems. And please understand, I sure as hell don't have all the answers. So, if anyone got any questions, fire away.
Is there anything we should put on the contract about our liabilities with this sort of stuff or anything, or is it just part of what's expected of us anyway or something?
Yeah, one of the things that scares me about contracts, all right, and one of the things that scares me about occupational health and safety is that it is a legal requirement. And one of the things that scares me is insurances. Because if you don't have your occupational health and safety in order, all right, technically you're operating against the law, you're breaking the law, which null and voids all insurances, including public liabilities. All right? So one of the things which I would like to put in the contract, and there are a number of things I put in, and I recommend to my clients to put into their contract, terms and conditions on the back. All right? You see, when you guys go to a private dwelling, you go to a house to do a job, that is not a workplace, and as such does not come under the occupational health and safety laws until you set foot in the driveway. The minute you set foot in that driveway, it becomes your workplace. Therefore, you are responsible for the health, welfare, and safety of the wife, the cat, the kids, the dog, the goldfish, the lot. All right. Do you understand? Yeah. So what we've got to need to do is we need to look at our contract and say that you need to have control over that workplace. That if the wife and kids are in there and you're trying to build a kitchen and you've got your saws and your leads and bits and pieces, all right, it might be smart to make sure that they clearly understand that the control measures you have to put in place might mean that they're isolated. They're going to go away.
So if you're doing an extension, an upper floor conversion, and the people want to live in the house while you're doing it,
Yes.
then it's not going to work.
Yes, it is.
It is. How?
Okay. Remember I said the only defence you've got is prior evidence of due diligence, that you've done everything that's reasonable and practical prior to the event. Now, you're going to be in situations where clearly the people have to live there, all right?
Yep.
But you're doing a renovation. So you have to isolate, you have to do what's called a risk management on that, okay? So you identify what the hazard is, and the hazard is the kids, the dog, the cats, and the wife, all right?
Right, yep.
And the fact is that you've got cooking and smelling and gosh knows what else going in there, all right? So you have to do what you can do, all right? And that is eliminate if you can, so get rid of them. If you can't do that, then you have to substitute or minimise or isolate, or make sure they clearly understand that the doors are going to be shut. Because if the kid comes running through the kitchen like they've done 2,000 times every day for the last 20 years, 5 years, all right, and trips over your lead, hits the kitchen table and knocks all their teeth out, you're on the gun.
Yeah.
All right? So what we've got to do is go back and say, well, hang on, we did everything reasonable and practical, all right? We did what we can to eliminate the prosecution factor.
Yep.
Why should you be prosecuted for some kid carrying on foolishly? Doesn't know.
Yeah.
The other thing is too, which it's come to my attention on 2 or 3 of my clients. I look after a company called Grant Transformations, all right? And a couple of their clients have used that as an excuse not to pay their bill. Okay? That you know, oh, you didn't work safely and you didn't do things and you treated my wife badly and I heard you swearing and you smoked out in my balcony in bits and pieces, and you've, all right? A couple of smarty pantses, all right, that relatives worked in government departments or know something about occupational health and safety have picked a little click out of it. That's what I'm saying. We need to get in first, get our front end right, okay? And once our front end is right, these things can't turn up. I've had 2 clients that have had alleged claims for workers' compensation turned down by the insurer because we had the prior evidence of their due diligence. We had inducted them, we trained them, we got the signed off documents prior to the event. So when they came up and said, I wasn't told about that, we said, excuse me, here are the documents, go away. GIO was one company that turned them down. That saved my client $180,000. He thinks I'm a pretty good bloke. Didn't give me any more money or anything, but thinks I'm a good bloke.
Questions? Just while I'm walking over there, one thing that concerns me that I see quite often, and I believe it's a requirement on say you're doing a first floor extension, is that rather than have the ladder there should be like a stair access or something safe, which rarely happens.
1.8 metres from where your feet stand, you have a working at heights factor. My clients put their guys through a working at heights purely simply to make sure they understand clearly what's going on. They clearly understand what their harness requirements are, their safety harnesses, scaffolding requirements, which is in the news an awful lot right now. All right? They need the ticket to say they've done the course. All right? So that it can't come back and bite them. You get a professional company comes in, puts up a bit of a scaffold, you got to get the sign-off document. All right? That he has said that it is okay and he's the expert. But that doesn't exonerate you. You're still liable. It's the same as when you get a piece of electrical equipment and you get an electrician to tag it. And he puts a tag on it. Do you know how long that tag lasts for? About 3 seconds. All it states is that at that time it was safe. Straight after it's finished, it comes back onto you to do your risk management. You must do your risk management. Identify, assess, and control your hazards. That's the whole rudiment. Occupational health and safety is actually very simple. Identify your hazards. Is it a physical hazard, chemical, biological? Make an assessment. What are the chances of it happening? If it does happen, what are the consequences of when it kills someone? And then look at controls. And you know, and I certainly know, that there is a huge number of tasks which you guys perform every day that you cannot do in a safe manner. There is no safe way to lift things. Right? So you still need to be seen to be managing it. You document it, put it in there, this is what we're doing. And that's your defence. You've got to have a simple set of documents, get the front end right, then you've got a chance.
Okay, going back to that question where, say you're doing an upper floor and the people are living downstairs,
Yep.
what we've done sometimes is had the owner take out their own insurance as well, construction insurance. Does that cover you in that sort of circumstance?
No. There is no insurance for breaches of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Full stop.
In public liability and that I'm talking about more. Because they're still living there, your insurance wouldn't actually cover them. Well, it would, your public liability would, but we've actually made them take out their own public liability at the same time for the construction period.
It's been difficult to get a claim on public liability, all right, for breaches of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. The only insurance that I know of was with one of my clients called Insurance Advisor Net, who had a policy which was for the cost of your litigation. I'm not going to answer that question because I'm not good enough to answer it.
So is it still a thing to do, you reckon, or?
Well, gee, check with Dan. Maybe he'd be smarter than I would be to answer that question. All right? See, what I know quite well, but what I don't know, and I don't know enough to be able to give you a good answer for that question.
Yeah. Even on a couple of houses that we've knocked down and done the whole block, they've sort of we've made them take out their own public liability for, if just say they walk on site for a site meeting or something like that.
Yep.
I mean, you just never know.
Can I ask you the question? Who's in charge of your worksite?
We are.
That's right. That includes the owners. But you've got to get that control at the front end. And what you're doing is, by doing what you're telling me you're doing, you're actually getting a little bit of control right for the front end. But the question was, are you inducting? You see, Are you guys PTY limited companies?
Yeah, pretty much.
Are you all PTY limited companies? Okay, because if you're a PTY limited company, you're an employee. And the law states you must be inducted into that business. And your roles and responsibilities as an employee and an employer, all right, are substantial. You've got to induct yourself. You've got to get your statutory obligations under control. The stuff that says you must. You must induct your staff. You must provide information, instruction and training. You must do this. You must do that. And look, at the end of the day, me standing up and saying, I heard this chap say this to that bloke, is no good. It's hearsay. It's not admissible in court. The only thing you've got control over is the paper trail. Get the paper trail. Get it up front, get it right, and its maintenance is simple. I've got clients, I've got a company, I don't know if you know them, Taylor's Building Solutions in Roselle. Okay? He's the president of the Master Builders Association in the Northern Beaches. And I go up there and I give lectures to all the Master Builders guys up there, every now and again, similar to this. All right? A whole bunch of them are my clients. All right? All those guys do is making sure that they've got everything documented. They would spend approximately, and they're a big company, all right, 2 hours a month on their occupational health and safety. That's what I do. They don't have to hire anyone. It's not a big deal for the wives and kids, right, or the office staff, right, because they've got it right at the front end. The only thing that takes up time is when you're doing a quote, and you have to provide all the documents for a safety management plan if you're putting in a quote or a tender or something like that. Particularly if you're doing something with like the RTAs or Bovis Lend Lease, right, Urban Pacific, Macquarie Bank, and all those sort of people. I've just done that. I've just got an audit today, my management plan. One of my clients is just building the new golf course for Greg Norman, and out at Coolabee, and pretty strict audits these days. And they're just simply not letting you on site unless you have this documentation. They don't care what you do, they just want to see that you write it down so they can pass the buck. And you all know it's got nothing to do with safety. Well, I suppose it has. It's all about money. It's about who they can pass the buck down, who's going to write out the check at the end of it. My job is to make sure it's not you. Any other questions?
Yeah, man. I did a, I forget the name of it. It's like how the company conducts itself, you know, for each job, and it's like I had to make it job specific, but it's like it's got all forms there for accidents
JSA,
and
job safety analysis, or safe work methods?
no, it's got a forms for accidents and you know, just about everything really. Site induction, and so I don't know what that is, but I.
Yeah, something. Yeah, it sounds a bit like a safety management plan.
No, I wasn't. Yeah. No, I don't know. I forget what it is.
It could easily be a safety management plan, or every one of you will probably have something.
Well, probably is, but yeah, there was heaps.
Have you guys done a safe work method statement? Do you know what a safe work method statement is? You've been asked for them? Yeah. Okay. That's all it is. It's just a document with all the stuff you've got to do, all of you must in a nice big pile, right? And the frustrating thing about it is every time you go to a new job, they have a different requirement, right? Guys want it in a different format, a different way. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating for me too. Just a joke sometimes. The saddest thing was when they made this act and this regulations, they didn't give the tools to go with it, and they've left it up to interpretation. That's the biggest problem. No one's got a track to run on. So we've got all sorts of tangents, and every one of you have been told all sorts of things about occupational health and safety. What you should, shouldn't do, what you need, what you shouldn't need. You got to do this.
I've got a client at the moment that she wishes to go to site when she wants, whenever she wants, on the weekends, taking other people there without my knowledge.
Yep.
Where do I stand there?
Simply, what we do is we induct her, all right? And we assign the responsibility so she clearly understands and signs off that she's going on site unsupervised, but you induct her into the workplace so she's clear and concise in her understanding of what she's allowed to do, not to do, whatever, and you get a sign-off document.
Is that in the form of a letter warning her, or?
I wouldn't warn her, I'd go the other way. I'd say, listen, we're in charge of the occupational health and safety of the site. I need to induct you as if you're a contractor or a worker or someone coming to my site, so you are aware of your roles, your responsibilities, what you can and can't do. There's also a defence for you. So if she goes onto site, right, and she falls down a shaft and hurt herself and goes up a ladder and hurts herself, the chances of you getting prosecuted are very, very slim, all right, because one of the other defences you've got is that you were not in a position to have any influence over it. So all you need to do is provide the prior evidence that you talked to her about it, warned her about the potential hazards, and she was aware of it, and you asked her to be very cautious about going on there, blah, blah, blah. That's all you can do. She goes on there. It's a little bit like a guy standing at the edge of a cliff, all right? If you're standing at the edge of a cliff and he decides he's going to commit suicide, all right, he's 120 kilograms, and there's a girl beside him who's 60 kilograms, all right? She can beg him, she can grab him, she can do everything, but at the end of the day, if he's going to jump over, he's going to jump over, all right? Why should she be prosecuted for it? And that's how the law stands. So what we need to do is make sure that all that stuff is done prior. Simple, no big deal. Away you go. I've got a client down in the Murray River, the tractor factory, all right? And this guy comes in, he walks in the workplace here, he smokes up large, brings beer in here, drinks around here, swears and carries on, abuses everyone, all right? And I was in there and I was doing a training session and I looked at this guy. And they said, oh, what do we do with this guy, Phil? And I said, well, who is he? And they said, oh, he's our best client. He buys 7 brand new tractors a year off us. They're usually between $180,000 and $200,000 tractors, right? So what do you do about that? And I said, hang on, I'll just take this hat off and I'll put this other hat on. This hat says he can do whatever he likes, all right? He's the client, he's writing out the check, all right? This one says, just ask him. See, one of the things I've learnt being Kiwi over here for about 12 years is you Australians are all strange people, all right? All weird. The minute you're told you must do this, you have to do this, the law says this, whatever, you all back up a little bit. And you sort of say, you know, who the hell are you talking to, you know? Mutter, grumble. And yet, if you're asked for your help or cooperation, you'll actually take the shirt off your back and give it to them. And that's where occupational health and safety is wrong. The whole system is fundamentally set up on punching you in the face or going to fine you or prosecute you or do all the negative things, right? And the silly thing about it was, if they had sat down and asked you for your help and cooperation, you'd do it because you want to. That's the saddest thing about this. Too many people are out there, work cover inspectors, meter maids, $1,500 for incorrect use of a ladder, $1,500 for leaving the keys in your forklift. That's a very common one. They love that. Just walk up to your site, see the keys in the forklift, just write the ticket out. The operator and the boss. See, it's not worth going to fight it. It's not worth going to court and fighting it. $1,500 costs you more to talk to your lawyer. So you write the ticket out, mutter, grumble, like these bloody parking tickets and speeding tickets you get on the cameras.
Just before we finish off, I've got a question. Looking at the Home Office or the office, what sort of issues do we look at that as far as occupational safety?
Well, most of the, I do an awful lot of office blocks. Office ergonomics is probably the biggest one. See, one of the things you need to understand, right? We don't go broke fast. We go broke very slowly, right? We don't usually get sick fast. We get sick quite slowly. Our bodies don't deteriorate fast unless we have a major accident. They deteriorate slowly. Over a longer period of time, our bodies simply wear out, right? Things go wrong, and we start getting hip problems. Over 75% of all people that live to the age of retirement have some form of major operation within 3 years of retirement. Hip replacements, rotator cuffs, backs. What a waste of time, all this effort everyone puts into working, all the best times of their life, the prime time of their life. They're swapping all that wonderful time during the day for a bit of money at the end of the week, putting a bit in a tin, paying off your mortgages, educating your kids, all with a secret desire that one day you're going to get to a retirement age and sit back and say, we don't have to worry about this anymore. We can go for our world trip. What an absolute shame that 75% of these people in the room here will not be in a fit state to enjoy it. hear me in hospital, on drugs, buggered back, buggered hips, buggered arms, sore hands. All right? And it's not because you chopped it off with an axe. It's because you've done that for 30 years. All right? And after 30 years, it wears down. What we've got to do is we've got to arrest it now and look at our procedures, what we're doing, and our paradigms. I do a simple lifting test, and everyone knows how to lift. Everyone knows how to lift. All right? I've got about $40,000 owed to me. I bet everyone $1 they don't know how to lift. They never pay. All right? There wouldn't be one person here would pass the lift test on how to lift correctly. And that's the saddest thing about it, because that's the most likely way in which anyone's going to be injured. 54% of all injuries at work cover manual handling. Lifting, pushing, pulling, sliding, slip, trips, falls, whacking your head, that type of thing. All it is about understanding. See, one of the things about adults, you people, you don't learn by reading. You've never learned by reading. You're practical people. You learn by doing. People show you and you understand it. Sit down and give you a book to read and you say, click. Put you in an occupational health and safety training session between 7 and 8 minutes. The light's on, but there's no one home. All right? I give up. I stop. You're no different. Oops. Because it's boring. All right? So what you do in business is you say, let's park it over here. That's a too hard basket. All right? And leave it there. Or give it to Mum. Mum, you do it. Or not do it at all. And not doing it at all is not an option. Yep. Thank you very much.
Well, I think what Phil's done is given us more questions and answers. I think that we all need to look at how we run our business and what we need to do to cover ourselves in case of any claims. There could just be a short break now between changing over the mics for our next speaker, so just bear with us if you don't mind.
Okay, what I want to explain to all builders, husbands, wives of ABS in particular is things are going to be a little bit different in the short term with ABS. Now, our supplier is Lumley. That's about to cease. I am working on another option. It's with Fair Trading at the present time. I can't say much more, but what it's going to mean in the interim, and that interim could be 3 months, could be 2 months, is that you're going to be asked for financials, which you are now. We did have it when we first started financials, then we took it away and you had to supply them when you renewed. Well, now it's gone back to that we want them from new and renewed, and with those financials going to be assessed just like Joe Blow out with a normal broker. The one thing that's being let off is our existing builders, yourselves, have got a lot of more freedom than the new builders coming on board. They are going to cop it. It's shifted the goalposts while the game's commenced and making it very, very hard. And it's a loss situation that they're concerned about. So the point of this here is don't get annoyed with the staff at ABS. We've had these restraints put on us. Now, as I said, I believe it'll be a couple of months, but if it's a little bit longer or a little bit less, that'll be a bonus. But bear with us. You are going to be asked for more information. Now, there is always, has been, as you know, the alternative. Go out there with the other mobs, the other suppliers, but that's going to be worse. Believe me. So this is a heads up. This is just something back as a, well, it's hardly a thank you, is it? But gratitude back to the builders of ABS. That's why I want this going out throughout Australia. So It is going to be hard times. Today we actually had another builder fall over on us, ABS, doing, what was it, about a $1.3 million job. First job he's been with us. Okay, there's not going to be a payout, but that's not the point. Chris went out of his way to get him home warranty. Went out of his way. The guy was difficult, but the long end of the story is that it's being controlled by an architect who's been looking after the progress payments. It's at excavation stage, and I believe the garage slab is down. The money's well in control. We had another one with David Reed Homes. You might have seen it in the paper, heard it over the radio. This particular one was in the Hunter. He was one of ours. 6 projects we had with this one particular franchise. I went around and saw all the jobs. I was talking to the assessor tonight down in Melbourne before I got here about 6 o'clock or so. We don't believe there's going to be a payout at all with any of them because of the ABS system working. Now, as far as the drawdowns, there's sufficient money to carry on, and in 2 cases the people have broken the rules, the consumer, the client. They've gone and paid to Tsunami. One particular was, it said kitchen installed, skirting and architraves fixed, obviously the doors in. Well, I'm standing in the bloody kitchen and I'm asking, where's the kitchen? Says, yeah, it's not there. But he said he was going to get it, you know, he's going to get it to me. So why did you release the payment for? Well, he asked for it and things had been going up there. Well, I said, well, here's the claim form. When you put it in, if there is a claim, and just say, let's say that there's a $30,000 claim. Well, you've paid out 88, you're not going to get anything. You're just out of it. So as it happened, this particular one, he made a very quick commercial decision, not putting in a claim, cop it, and move on. So we're educating the consumer, but we're going to be having in the future, once we get this new arrangement, I'll make it very clear now, deposits to builders for a new house, you won't get it. We will get it. Now I can hear you now, like hell you will. Well, yeah. We are holding it on behalf of the client until concrete has been poured on site. And until times improve, that's what's going to happen. That's going to be what's happening with us. It's your money, but it's too easy for a builder just to get a ute, and I'm not having a go, I'm the builder, been there, done that, but it's too easy, especially for the young ones, and we need the young ones coming through, to get a ute, as I say, a ute, a dog, and a cell phone, and I'm a builder. And then he's out building, doesn't know how to handle it, whatever, belly up. You go and get a convenience, buy a convenience shop, corner store shop. You've got to buy the stock, 60 grand. You've got to pay the rent, leases. There's 100 probably total. You're making a commitment. For a builder taking on the commitment of building someone's house, whether it's 100, 200,000, $1 million house, there's none. So this is the reason why we're going to be doing what we're going to do. Unfortunately, until there's either we see sound backup with as far as financials go, remember we don't take your assets. Not interested. A young fellow, people don't have assets. The other requirements won't be changing, but this is one that will, and this is something that's will happen. We're also bringing in, I was in New Zealand last week, just something just I don't feel that picking on here. New Zealand is now going to put my concept in throughout New Zealand, and that will happen this year. Probably around about June it'll become law over there. And it's going to be the same way, it's going to be first resort over there, not second resort. So that's one of the things that's going to happen with a deposit. For the builder, the same thing. It's unfortunately, it's a fact of life. We're changing. So that's. Fair trading approved that yet? Sorry? Fair trading doesn't have to approve it. They don't have to approve it. No, it's commercial. It's a commercial decision. But at the end of the day, when you think about it, a deposit, apart from, fair comment, I'd be staying probably if I was a young fella too, like hell you will, but that money never, a lot of times, doesn't go where it's supposed to go anyway. And if you're building project houses and what have you, you've got a lot of deposits coming in. I'm not saying in your case it happened, but you've got a lot of deposits coming in. It's used for other things. It can be used for administration, it can be used for all sorts of things. And you go belly up. So who pays for it? Home warranty. Not with us, it won't be. No way. And if it's gone into the fund, all it means is you've got to have a bit more capital before you jump into building a house. You've got to have a bit of substance there. That's all it's doing. So and when you're doing that, you're building your own credibility up as well. Soundness. So I thought there's never a good time for news like that, but it's something that I want out, because that's the way our company operates, openness. And I think you have been with us all through the 4 years. That's exactly what we are. We're not going to change, and we are going to be around. So with the New Zealand concept, the government over there, they think what we're doing is fantastic. Over there, we are also taking control of the licences, builders licensing over there, and the licence over there for an old fart like myself, Mick, that'll be about $3,000 a year for your builder's licence. For a young fella, it's going to be $5,000 at least. And part of that is going to go in to the fund of warranty to lessen the price or the cost back to the consumer. And why not? It's no different than a doctor having it, a lawyer having it. The fidelity funds is what I'm talking about, and that's the way it's going to be done over there. And we're looking at something very similar here. So as long as you're sound and doing the right thing, still not a problem. But it's going to be a lot harder. Caps are coming back on again. They're dropping down. They're not extending. And phone the marketplace. What I'm saying I know is correct. Rates have gone up. That's to be expected. But with players dropping out of the marketplace, it's going to make it very limited. And for most of you that probably remember back in 2003, there was only 2 players. We've got about 5 out there at the present time. So things are going to be difficult and going to be hard. And just think of the builders that wouldn't be building if it wasn't for us as ABS. And the ones that even now we're having restrictions put on, there are some builders that we can't get over the line now. What are those poor buggers doing? They still got wives, family, still got to eat. So I believe the media will be driving this in the not too distant future. So that's all I've got to say on that part. We'll get Richard's coming up. Alan, you're going to do a bit of an info.
So if we could welcome Richard College, please. Much appreciated. Thank you, Richard.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think after what's gone before me, I've got a pretty hard task. I think to cover my area of business structures, your accounting records, etc., but I'll try and cover it as best as I can. And any questions you may have, and I don't mind you asking them during the presentation, because it might... As Phil said, I'm a Kiwi. I was in practice in New Zealand for 20 years and 15 years over here. And the problem I think both countries have got is, in the earlier days there wasn't the compliance that the respective tax officers put on you. Now you would know the compliance work you have to do is absolutely diabolical. From our point of view, we're not doing our jobs as chartered accountant because we're not getting out and seeing our clients as much as we should. Now I've made a pact that from 1st of July, once we get over this current financial year, that I'm going to make time and go out and see my clients a lot more, because I think if you see them on their territory, and that they will get a lot more benefit of it rather than coming into the city to see me in Martin Place. They can't get a park. It's absolutely crucial that we do our job better, and that's what we're planning to do. Now, I'll start off with business structures. Now, there are four, as I see it: sole traders, partnerships, companies, and trusts. Now, how many company people have we got here? Sole traders and trusts? None. Okay. Sole traders fine, partnerships are fine. As I see it, if you have good working capital, good projects, etc., etc. But if things go wrong, you can be challenged. You can be challenged by being sued. You probably put up guarantees for various things. You can be bankrupted. I see a company structure as being probably one of the better ones because your liability is limited as long as you do things right. You can go into administration, you can go into liquidation, and a liquidator can have a crack at you as a director if you haven't done the right thing. For example, if you traded while you're insolvent, if you didn't pay your pay-as-you-go withholding. And I'd like to tell you about a situation a client of mine got in where he was appointed a director of a company. He accepted that appointment. Unbeknown to him, there was $300,000 of pay-as-you-go withholding that hadn't been paid. So even though it wasn't his fault, nothing to do with him, he's still director of the company, so the tax office came to him with what's called a Section 22A notice. So you get that, and then you've got 3 weeks to respond to that. But this guy wasn't really responsible for it, so he said to the other guys, well, you appointed me, you sort it out, but they never did. The next thing he does, he gets a letter in the mail to say, from the tax office saying we're going to garnish your bank accounts. And that's exactly what the tax office does. And they can do it, and they're getting far more aggressive in this area. So what I'm saying, the company structure is very good, but you've got to be very careful. One, your responsibility as director, and one, keeping all your tax liabilities in hand. Trust is a good idea, where you have a trustee company and trading through a trust, but that's when you want to distribute income to beneficiaries and income split. But I think it's probably not appropriate in this situation. Your books of accounts. Now, how many do them in-house? How many have bookkeepers? Okay. It's very important. Do you do them quarterly, 6 monthly, annually? Because what I'm going to suggest to you is to keep an eye on your business is to do them quarterly at least. Now, whether you do it through a My accounting package or other accounting packages, and I suggest you go to your accounting advisor every quarter, show them your books, show them your BAS, and that will, you get a much better idea how you're going, and also put your BASs in on time. Because what the tax office are doing now is that they charge up to $1,100 for late lodgement of BAS. But what I say to my clients is put your BASs in on time, even though you can't pay them. You know, there might be GST, pay-as-you-go withholding, FBT, pay-as-you-go instalment. Then go to the tax office and negotiate with them. Now, they will negotiate if it's done properly. But if you leave it in that, you'll get into the situation like my client of mine where he gets a garnishee on his bank account. And I think the most important thing to keep up with is the pay-as-you-go withholding. And that's the only thing as a director you can be personally liable for. So I urge you to keep all those completely up to date, do quarterly accounts, and as Phil said, that down the track you're going to have to prepare more timely financial statements anyway. So I think I can't urge you more strongly than to do that. The fringe benefit tax, are any of you involved in that regime? Do you have vehicles in your companies? You don't? No vehicles? Partially. Partially. Yeah, it's a business, it's a ute or a...
You might have 50-50 with some people in the family.
Yeah, okay. So you make some adjustment through your accounts for that use, or yeah, they're not too hard on FBT, but I try and encourage my clients to keep, say, a car, a sedan or something, out of the books and pay a car allowance rather than keeping it in the books, because you open yourself up for fringe benefit tax. But at this stage, I'll ask some questions. Because you know, I can go on forever, but there may be some questions you guys have.
Yeah, could you tell us a bit more about PAYG tax and the, you know?
Well, if you've got a company situation,
Super maybe, if you know anything about it.
you can become an employee of your own company. So you pay yourself a wage, you deduct pay as you go withholding, and you pay it into the tax office. So instead of at the end of the year just paying instalment tax, you pay the tax as you go as an employer. So you can be a shareholder, director, employer of your own company. And all it means is you register with the tax office as an employer and then just start paying yourself a wage. So, but that's the one you need to keep up to date.
Just while you're on that topic, you're only liable as a director for a proprietary limited of your own pay-as-you-go withholdings, or your employees as well?
Yeah, it's just in a company situation.
Right.
Because it's going to be a liquidator come in first, and then the tax office can go you personally.
So they won't garnish anything until a liquidator's been
No, they
appointed?
won't garnish. They can't garnish. First thing they've got to do is send you a notice,
Right.
which is a 22A notice as a director.
Right.
So you get that. If you don't respond or do anything, then they'll come back with the garnish. And it probably takes...
And you're already in a fair bit of trouble already anyway, aren't you?
You're in trouble. 8 to 12 months, I suppose, before they start doing that.
Right.
Maybe 14.
Fair enough. Thanks.
But
for that.
I wasn't really aware that this... I'd never experienced it before, and then this client came and said, well, they've done this to me. So they are starting to do that. So it's really important to keep that one up to date. But keep in touch with them. Go to your professional advisor and say, well, look, I've lodged my form, but I can't pay. And give them a cash flow and say, well, look, I'll pay over a period of time. But don't let it roll, because they're getting tougher and tougher and tougher. As I said, the $1,100 penalty for late lodgement of BAS.
Richard, what about obligations for superannuation for a company?
Well, they've got to pay it in their quarter or the 28th of the month following. And if they fail to do that in their court, well, the tax office come back to them for the 9%. Even if they subsequently have paid it to the superannuation funds, the tax office will still pursue. So you have to pay the tax office, and then your only retribution is to go back to the super fund and say, well, you've got 2 payments, I want 1 payment back.
So what would be your biggest tip as far as, let's look at a business where, wife or partner's at home, doing 2 or 3 days a week in the business, and the other partner's out there working. What would be your biggest sort of tip about managing the business?
The partner at home is doing
looking
some of
after
the-
book work. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put them on the payroll,
Oh, okay. Yep.
for sure. No reason why you shouldn't.
Yeah. Income split?
Hmm?
Income splitting?
Yeah, but it's quite legit, they're doing the work.
Yep.
Home as office, I presume that some of you operate from home. You can claim a portion of all your home expenses, the area that you've got for your office as a deduction. Given that the tax office have said that if you subsequently sell, if it's a private home, sell their home, they may add back the portion that you claimed as a home as a capital gain. But I haven't seen that happen, and I don't believe that would ever happen. So
That's interesting, because I've been told that was one of the problems with doing it, but you haven't seen that actually happen.
no.
Oh.
It's mooted, but I don't believe they do that. And in fact, with all the home sales and that, I don't think they'd ever catch up with that.
Yeah, one of the things I might mention, tax office went through me about 30 years ago or something, and they dumped the idea of the partner because my missus at the time hadn't written anything in the books, or, you know, and I said, well, she only answers the phone, and they said, well, pay right here, you know, we don't wear it. So
And what
just
structure were
something,
you?
just
Were
something
you a
I'm noting there.
partnership or a,
Beg your pardon?
what, were you a partnership
Yeah, yeah.
or a company?
Splitting the income with my wife.
Well, you can do that through a partnership situation.
Yeah, we were partners, yeah.
Yeah.
But there was no writing of hers in the books, you know.
Well,
Didn't
that's a
sign
bit-
any checks or
How
anything
long
like
ago?
that. Oh, 30 years ago or something,
Oh,
or
no,
25
I don't
years
think
ago.
that'll happen now. It may well be that you're doing all the manual work outside, so you split it 70-30 or something like that. Don't think they could argue with that.
Well, they dumped me anyway. I had to pay her, you know,
Yeah.
her tax.
Can't see that happening now
Yeah.
at all. No, that's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
I've got something that's probably more helpful than anything else, but it's in regarding to GST, that you know, you can lodge your form so you don't get sort of fined for the late lodgement, but also if you're late with your payment,
They'll charge a general
and they
interest
charge
charge.
you the general
Yep.
interest,
Yep.
as long as your account's back to zero, you can ring them up and ask them to
Remit the...
yeah, to
Yep.
actually give you that interest charge, but take it back off your account.
Yep.
And they will, and they, most of the time they'll do it.
Mm.
They'll say, yep, no
Yep.
problems.
Yeah. As I was
It
saying,
just
the
depends
import-
if you're on time or always late, they will give you that money back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Just communication.
Yeah, it's a
Communicate
phone
with
call,
them.
yeah. Well, sorry?
You don't even have to have cleared the account to do that.
No, that's right. But they're more likely to do it if, say, you had a running account and because it's normally off a tax account, if you've got a balance there that you've got to pay and that's outstanding, they'll actually, you know, and they charge you, say, $500 interest or something like that, they will actually remit that amount. They'll take it off and give it back
They
instead
sure
of
will.
fining. If you just make a phone call, they'll do it off that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any more questions? Richard, thank you very kindly.
No problem.
Good information. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the night. Thank you for coming. We look forward to seeing you at the next one, which will be in April from recollection. We're looking at this stage at having it at North Ryde RSL, because I get lots of complaints from people that aren't that close here about, you know, why can't we have one a bit closer to them? So, and at this stage, the speaker will most likely be, well, we're looking at somebody from an insurer to discuss their side of the homeowner's warranty, but that hasn't been confirmed as yet. So thank you all very much for coming. Bye.